legacy in the time where heroes lived. People like Salahuddin, who gave his life for Islam, our legacy.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praise belongs to Allah, and may His peace and blessings be upon His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Dear viewers, welcome back to another episode where we're looking at Islamic history. Today, inshallah, we're going to take a look at the history of Islam in the USA, the history of Islam in America.
America have already a history in Islamic history?
No doubt about it. As we've taken a look at, some of the other episodes, taking a look at countries like Australia, taking a look at Europe, you see Islam is found all over the world. And America is no exception. Insha'Allah, we're going to look a little bit about, the history of things that happen, but also certain points about the history of Islam in the USA that are really, I think they're going to blow your minds. You're going to say, oh my God, I really never knew anything about this. Insha'Allah, this is what I hope to achieve by the end of this episode, insha'Allah. Now, we do have an American with us, don't we?
Yes.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Zaid. I'm from America, and I'm from the USA.
Whereabouts in the USA are you from?
I'm from New Jersey, right
From
next
New
to
Jersey.
New York.
Oh, okay.
And in New Jersey, alhamdulillah, there's a lot of Muslims in New Jersey.
You've got many masajids.
Yes,
and
many masajids, and the culture there. There's even masjids with Arabic khutbahs and all that stuff. It's a good population.
You've got
good
halal
community.
butchers.
Of course, you have halal butchers. Halal restaurants. Grocery stores, just run by Muslims. All of that.
Alhamdulillah, this is very, very good to see. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewind. We're going to go back to the start, the beginning of Islam in the USA. Now, we know USA was called the New World because you had Europe, you had Asia, you had Africa. And these were the three main continents of the world. And many people speculated, they said maybe there's another land. It was actually interesting. A lot of the early Christians, they actually said that it's impossible that there's going to be another land other than these three continents. And this was the view of some of the people in the Christian church. Because they said the fact that there's three continents proves the Trinity.
Yes, because in the Bible they said that the earth is a round plate. Bible.
This is a whole nother issue that we're looking at. But they said the three continents, the three continents that are actually joined, three distinct continents, but they're one large continent, Europe, Asia, and Africa. A lot of people in the Christian church use this as a justification to justify the Trinity. So they said if there's another continent, this proves the Trinity wrong.
Of course, yeah.
It's something strange for us to, we know today you've got more than, these three. You've got Australia, Antarctica, you've got the Americas. But this was one of the views that was held at the time. If you said there was something beyond these three, you're considered a heretic.
So today, because that we have septinity, for nowadays we have 7 continents. So we have septinity.
We won't go into the Aqidah, the theology of continents.
Regarding is there 6 or 7? So we have septinity or sectinity.
Alhamdulillah, we know as Muslims, the whole world Allah has created this. And Allah is above His creation and He's one. He's, Wahid al-Ahad. So, khair. There was, a lot of speculation about, this new world, and the Europeans, they wanted to travel to this new world to, see the things that it might have, see if they could get something out of this. Now, eventually, we know that Columbus did eventually travel to America. He didn't actually come to the mainland of America, but he got to the Caribbean, to this area, and this was in 1492.
And we listen that he is a hero.
According to some people, and I'm sure that you would have seen in the USA around Columbus Day, a lot of the Native Americans, they say he's no hero, he's a criminal. He began the invasion of our lands. So you see, there is a lot of debate about the role of Columbus. We know as Muslims, because 1492, it's a significant year in Islamic history, because this was the fall of Granada. This was the end of Al-Andalus.
No.
And as we know, 1492. Was the fall of Andalus, and the same year that America was discovered. And we'll talk about why it wasn't discovered properly. Discovered, of quotation marks around it. What had happened basically was the King and Queen of Spain, Ferdinand and Isabella, they was all of their money was going towards, their fight against the Muslims, the Reconquista, reconquering the lands. So come 1492, Christopher Columbus, he's been begging the king and queen, saying, please fund my mission so I can go and discover these new lands. What he wanted to do was actually discover a new route to go to India. So rather than having to go through the mainland, he wanted to find another route
Because
to actually get to India.
the route in that day was across the Muslim lands.
Yes.
So we see that the reason because of the Muslims. Because as we seen in this all shows that they're all the reasons for this Muslims, because the Muslims, for example, for Magellan, the Muslims were the first after Greece and the Romans to said that the plate that the Earth isn't a plate. So the Magellan has gone to prove this. So it's all about Muslims.
Yeah, and this is part of the reason, because they wanted to avoid the Muslim lands, Central Asia.
And and he all what he wanted to take fund to see other way going to India.
Yes.
Why India?
India's, got the land of spice. You'd go there, and India had a lot of things available. The best spices. A lot of commodities, things like this. So
Trade.
they wanted to find from
For
trade.
business.
Yeah, absolutely trade. So this is why he said to the king and queen, you fund my mission. First it's going to give him his livelihood. He's an explorer, but it's also going to justify, trade for the empire. It's going to generate business. It's going to be better for them.
And I heard that he didn't discover the America, but he get lost and the people find him and
this is what happened. He was looking for India. And
He stumbled upon
he bumped into the Americans.
He died convinced that he discovered India, that he's
what he
in
thought.
India, that he's in India.
This is why he said to the natives, "You're Indians." This is why they call them, the Native Americans. They call them Indians until today, because Columbus had no idea where he was going.
Islands are known as West India.
Indeed. So what had actually happened was 1492. All of a sudden, the king and queen, they're not going to say no to Columbus anymore. Why? Because now they're not spending money on fighting the Muslims. Now they're taking the treasures of the Muslims. Granada's fallen, and the wealth of the Muslims is theirs. So now they, with this money, they say to Columbus, now you can go. So he used the wealth of the Muslims.
Muslims, actually, it's Muslims who fund the Columbus journey.
Indirectly. I mean, they
indirectly.
didn't fund him directly, but it was from the treasures of the Muslims that they could now do so. And it's interesting to note that Columbus, the maps, for example, that he was studying, these were Muslim maps. These are maps in Arabic.
His crew was Muslim.
This is what we'll get to in a moment,
And
inshallah.
Spain at that time was the poorest country in the Europe. Before conquesting the Granada in that time.
Yes.
Was the poorest
And
country.
in the north of Spain, it was impoverished. Once they took Andalus, they took the wealth of Andalus. So Columbus, he started to study the maps of the Muslims, because the Muslims are the best map makers in that time. Had Al-Idrisi, who was living in Palermo in Sicily. He was a famous map maker. He was a Muslim making these maps in Arabic. So Columbus is studying the maps of the Muslims so he can get to India. Now, the place where he actually did his studies, his study, if you like, this building, you can actually visit it today. And you find that this building, it actually used to be a masjid.
Whoa, in Granada or where?
I'm not sure. It wasn't in Granada. It's in a city a little bit far away from Granada. But you can visit it today. And, they don't tell you it's a masjid. But you actually put a little bit of study into it, and you take a look at the architecture of the building. This actually used to be a masjid. So they've kicked the Muslims out. They've said to Columbus, this is your study. Here are their maps. Here's their money. Take this.
Took the and they gave him the masjid of Muslims.
Yes. And with this, he sailed. And as you mentioned, it's speculated. There's a lot of difference of opinion about this. But no doubt there were Arabic speakers on that ship. People that spoke Arabic.
Ship who go to America, who discovered the America.
The one who discovered America. And it said many of them were Muslims.
I've heard that. I heard the story that there's Muslim people went there before Columbus or something like that.
This is what we're going to talk about in a moment, inshallah.
Genghis
But talking about the ship of Columbus.
I've actually heard that his right-hand man was a Muslim.
It's said, and again, this is speculation. There's no hard historical fact, but we know at least there were Arabic speakers on the boat. No doubt about this. People spoke Arabic. They're coming from Andalus, from the Muslim lands.
His translator for the Arabic was some Jew who converted to Christianity for the translation of this mass because he didn't know Arabic.
Yes.
Columbus.
So what had happened?
So at this time, the Arabs, they had more advanced maps than basically where he was from. So that's how.
Yeah, this was from his land. The Muslims of Andalus had the best maps. So now they've conquered Andalus, he's taken the maps, he's taken the wealth, he's taken the masjid to study in, and he's set forth. And it said, some of his crew were Muslims. And we know that after the fall of Andalus, the Inquisition, which happened later on, the Muslims had to hide their faith. So if you're a Muslim, you might say, okay, I'm a Christian to save yourself from being persecuted, but reality is, at heart, you're a Muslim. And there are some accounts, again, these aren't necessarily stated in history, but there's the story that his right-hand man was a Muslim, and he actually rebelled against Columbus. During the travel to the Americas, he actually fought against him, and he declared jihad against Columbus, basically.
In the ship.
This is what recorded. Once they made it to land, he said to the Muslims on board, "Let's fight Columbus, this crusader, if you like."
And the Christian history recorded that it was just about rebellion because the traveling is so long. As we saw that when Magellan came, that we said only Philippine natives killed him, but as we see as in Philippine and also in regarding Colombo, it is all about Muslims.
Yeah, you find it everywhere they went. They were Muslims. And, we know that when Columbus landed, he landed around Cuba, for example. As we say, he never made it to the mainland. And in Columbus's diary, you see, he actually, when he landed, he said there were Moros.
Moros, it's
Moro.
Muslim.
Moros, the word, the Andalusi word for a Muslim. He said there were Moros in Cuba. He said the women dressed like the Muslims of Andalus. Their women dressed in dresses like the Muslims of Andalus. He said there was a hill in Cuba. He says on this hill there was a masjid.
Masjid?
Subhanallah,
A
really?
masjid.
Masjid in America before anyone
This is in
discovered
the
it.
Americas, in Cuba.
In Cuba.
He said this in his personal diary, and he said we found people who prayed 5 times a day. He's spelling it out for you. There were Muslims in the Americas, even at the time of Columbus.
How this happened?
This is what we want to look at.
So we can
is
say
what we
that Muslims discovered America, discovered Australia, discovered the Philippines before Christians.
What we say is they made it there before the Europeans.
That's because they didn't discover, the people were there before.
Of course. Now, as for speculating exactly how there would have been Muslims before, in the time pre-Columbus, there's a number of theories. Each of them, is valid in many ways. We know, for example, there's no doubt at the moment. We know that the Vikings of Scandinavia, they did make it to the Americas long before Columbus. This is documented. It's well known. However, the moment that you say Muslims made it to the Americas, the controversy gets thrown in. There's a sheikh in America. His name's Dr. Abdullah Hakim Quiq, and he actually he wrote a book called Deeper Roots. And the whole premise of Deeper Roots is he's talking about how Muslims made it to America long before Columbus. And he positioned that it was Muslims from West Africa. So we're talking about Ghana, Mali, all of these areas. And he showed why there's a lot of justification that they made it to the Americas. He showed, for example, that in America you find many of the Native American Indians, they have words related to the West African languages, like the Mandingo language, for example. The Native Americans in the part that he said they would have made it to, they speak very similar. The words for gold, for example, the words for things that would have been traded, they're very, very similar.